Hello and welcome to Altitude. We're here at Passenger Terminal Expo. It's the gathering for the people who design, build and operate the world's airports. And we'll be hearing about everything from optimizing runway capacity through to delivering the very best passenger experience. I'm Russell Porter and I'm your host. I'm joined by Luke Bugeja, CEO at Ferrovial Airports. Luke, hello and welcome to Altitude.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's my first PTE. I haven't been able to attend in previous years, so it's great to be here and good opportunity to meet with old colleagues.
Luke, cutting to Ferrovial, I know that you talk about airport cities. What does that mean in practice?
I mean, airport cities goes beyond just the normal designing of a terminal, which is really catering for passengers moving from curbside to gate. Airport cities caters to a much broader group of people. It's the population of the city. So what you have airside or landside is not only retail, food and beverage and hotels. In some cases, you have stadiums and entertainment. So what you need to do to be able to facilitate that is have an intermodal hub that actually connects people not only by car but by rail into the landside area. And it provides an alternative revenue source. And what we've seen in airports, particularly over the last few years, is the need for diversification against air travel. So airport cities is very, very important part of the whole ecosystem. And at Ferrovial, we don't just see a terminal as a passenger processing facility. It really is an ecosystem for the city and really driving economic value and also job creation.
And which cities do you see around the world that are really keen on that type of concept?
We've seen cities such as Bangalore, which do it extremely well. I mean, it is a place where people congregate. So there's a majority of spend there actually is landside and they're not travelling public. Munich have done it well, Frankfurt's done it well. So there's been many cities that have been able to do it. You need the land bank to develop that. But it's not a new phenomenon. It's happened before, but I think airports are now seeing a need to diversify their revenue source and airport cities are an obvious opportunity to develop that.
Thank you, Luke. One of the big challenges for aviation is sustainability, and I know it's a key part of your strategy. How do you bake sustainability into the kind of principles that sit behind the build and development of a new airport?
We see sustainability as not just an add-on, and we're fully aware that there is an upfront cost, but we do look at the value of sustainability over the long term. Smart energy systems and water systems that we integrate into the design reduces OPEX over the long run, reduces maintenance, and we see the return of these initiatives over a long period. And it's not just the return we look at, we do look at the sustainability portion, which is critical for what we're doing in airports and is something we take extremely seriously.
And I understand that you work around the world. You're in multiple markets, the US, Europe, the UK. What's one thing that you see airports doing brilliantly in one part of the world that you wish others would adopt?
So really well-structured public partnerships I see is what's worked well, and it really unlocks value and innovation in airports that don't have that public influence or that private influence. We've seen some areas in the world, I mean Europe, for example, Asia, Australia, Latin America have really embraced the private partnership. The United States is like the last bastion. It's a country which has enormous opportunity, hasn't really embraced it, and there's no one size fits all with public-private partnerships. And I think we need to be quite clear on where we think we can add value. The funding gap in the United States is widening, and we genuinely believe that there is a solution to that. But we need to be able to work very closely with airport authorities, cities, counties and municipalities on how we can provide value and we can really augment what they're currently doing. It's not a takeover. It really is about working together. And there are examples around the world where that private investment has really helped unlocking value for the city and also for creating innovation.
And what does value look like?
Well, for a county or a city in the United States, it's unlocking the huge value they have in the airport to be able to fund other projects within the city and the county that is probably needed. And there's massive funding gap. I mean, the airports in the United States have been able to fund through fairly cheap debt and increasing traffic. But when you've got capacity constraints, that revenue is not going to increase, and to unlock that needs massive investment. We're currently doing that in New York, in JFK, in Terminal 1, where we're just almost finishing our first phase of our development program. It's $6 billion US, is big. We're building a 240,000 square metre facility. And that's working together with the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey to develop a world-class facility right in the heart of New York.
So it's clear that you are behind some of the most innovative airport builds around the world. If we cast our kind of eye forward maybe 10 years and think about the future a little bit, what can we expect to see for the future of airport infrastructure?
Well, I think airports is more of what they need to do. And I think there's probably three things they need to do. One is improve the passenger processing. It's very clunky. It's good in some airports, and for example, Singapore, in particularly most of their terminals, actually, it's a seamless product. And other airports, there's a lot of queuing, multiple queuing. So I think the future needs to be a seamless, touchless experience from curbside to gate and then back through immigration. So that absolutely needs to happen. There needs to be, I believe, in the future, it needs to be an intermodal hub. So airports won't just be a single form of transport. You'll have a multi-mode of transport, rail, sea, and even air taxis. And air taxis will form part of that multimodal hub where you actually have a facility that you could be flying out of. You could be taking a train, taking a ferry, or taking an air taxi. So an airport would just be part of that ecosystem, that multimodal hub. And the third thing is sustainability. I mean, that needs to continue the journey and being self-sufficient and less reliant on the city's grid in the future.
Luke, thank you so much for joining us on Altitude. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Good to meet you. Thank you.
Javier, welcome to Altitude.
Thank you. I think this is something that I was in my bucket list, finally joining you at Altitude. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. It's great to have you on the show. We're here at Passenger Terminal Expo. The show has just started. What are you really excited about?
Well, I think everything. I think I have been working in aviation for many years, and I personally believe that aviation is about connection. There's nothing better than PTE to really show physically those connections. I think that we succeed by so many partners. This is my second PTE. The first one was in Madrid last year, my hometown, as you can see from my accent, and the second in London, which is my adopted hometown. So it's amazing to be here actually sharing in terms of the successes, but also the challenges ahead, because I genuinely believe that everything in aviation is about connection and collaboration.
And your place of work is just down the road?
Yes.
Chief Operating Officer for Heathrow.
Correct.
Huge role. I wonder, what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, first of all, I think that sometimes people forget that behind the role you have a person. I have a family, I have children, I do have breakfast in the morning, I do wake up, I try to do exercise, all these things. But after that, I think that my passion for aviation is to try to make every journey better. That's what ultimately our purpose is about. And having been in the company 18 years, I passionately believe on that purpose. We touch mainly three journeys: journeys of our passengers, journeys of our airlines, and journeys of our colleagues. And therefore, ultimately, what we are trying to do every day is to every journey that we touch to try to make it slightly better every single day. Sometimes, most of the times, it's a very successful and planned way. And sometimes we have to react to circumstances, because obviously, ultimately, our passengers and colleagues want to have a safe environment, and therefore sometimes we have to do it in an unplanned manner. But ultimately, the goal is to ensure that every single day we are making those journeys that we touch slightly better.
You spoke there about 400 companies, and we can see here at PTE it takes a huge number of companies for an airport to come together. How do you ensure alignment and to create that teamwork every day?
Well, I think first of all is ensuring that we have a common North Star. I talked earlier about creating valuable experiences. We cannot deliver that alone. We deliver with partnership with our home carriers, with our people, with NATS, looking after airspace and making sure that we are extracting the best possible value. Therefore, aligning in terms of that ultimate goal of making every single journey better is fundamental. And we have to do it in a humble way, but also in a resilient way. I have mentioned, and I did mention earlier to some colleagues in PTE, one of my youth heroes was Spider-Man. And Spider-Man used to say that with great power comes great responsibility. Heathrow is the largest and only hub in the UK. And therefore, we have to accept with humility the power that we have, but we have to embrace with power what that means. We have to be the ones signaling to the industry what aviation unlocks in terms of connection, but also prosperity and jobs. And therefore, that's the ultimate mantra that we are trying to instill across the amazing 400 partners that we have across the campus.
And I couldn't help but hear you there when you mentioned NATS. Just how important is the relationship that you have with NATS for the future of the airport?
Well, critical. I think without airspace, we wouldn't be an airport. We would be a motorway. We will have two very expensive motorways. So NATS and the partnership with NATS is actually the one that enables that connectivity. And again, it starts very much with a joint purpose. We have a very aligned purpose, commitment in terms of fundamental values. When you talk about NATS, the first word that comes to mind is safety. And we passionately both believe that at the end of the day, aviation relies on trust, and trust relies on safety. And therefore, having a powerful partner that continues leading the industry in terms of safety standards is fantastic. And ultimately, that's translated into leadership. I think that we are very lucky to have Martin, to have Catherine, great peer and friend for many years, working previously at Heathrow. So I think the fact that the standards of the company expressed through the leadership of the organization is there. And when you see alignment and the courageous deployment of technology that NATS have led in the last few years, you see magic happens. Heathrow has moved from leading the industry in terms of delays in 2022 to become the most punctual hub airport. And that's the success of, among others, the strong partnership with NATS. So go NATS, go, because a better NATS is a better Heathrow, and a better Heathrow is a better UK.
Thank you, Javier. That's wonderful to hear. You mentioned their technology. If there was one part, in an ideal world, one part of your operation that you could digitize without any constraint, which would it be?
I think for me, the fundamental opportunity is to rewire our minds. I think we need to adopt a digital mindset because it's the right mindset which is going to help us realizing that actually at the end of the day, technology provides the right tools, and the combination of great technology in the hands of our people, human-centric technology, is what's going to help us unlocking the biggest opportunities that we have in the next few years. I mentioned earlier about the physical challenges that we have in an airport. We have multiple parties, we have different terminals, we have airspace, we have movements on the ground, but everything is about seamless integration. Seamless integration is the success. Probably today we still have effective and optimized collocation, but we haven't fully unlocked the benefits of seamless integration, and that could come with technology. But everything, among everything, is about we realizing that technology is a powerful tool to ultimately unlock what we are here for, which is making those valuable experiences slightly better every day.
Thank you. And when it comes to unlocking things, you have the expansion project. Obviously, that's a huge part for the future of Heathrow. Just how much capacity will that give you?
At the end of the day, Heathrow today, one of the successes of Heathrow is that we are absolutely full. We are the only hub airport in the largest aviation market in the world, and we have a huge role to play in terms of the success of the UK. I mentioned earlier, I'm Spanish by birth, I'm British by choice. And what I have realized is the success of the UK being the sixth largest economy of the world is a combination of few things. It's a combination of amazing British ingenuity. It's a combination of being a global leader in education, but also it's a combination of international trade, which Heathrow has to maintain and unlock. Unfortunately, today Heathrow is full. And therefore, expansion is not just a physical infrastructure program, is the best gateway to really expand the UK growth. Obviously, that will bring us roughly 50% extra capacity and ultimately more opportunities for passengers and businesses to connect to the global centers of the 21st century. Heathrow being full means the UK being stuck. And 2026 is a critical year where we really want, in partnership with the government, to unlock the opportunity, commercial, economic, jobs opportunity, acceleration of sustainability commitments that we have with our passengers to really make the UK airport that the UK is proud of.
Thank you, Javier. You talked there about business and economics. I know that in part of your background, you were CFO prior to this role. Does that give you a unique perspective as Chief Operating Officer?
Well, first of all, I started my career as an accountant. So hopefully for those accountants listening, come on, let's go. Accounting matters. But I think accounting is not just, what I learned from accounting is that ultimately it showed me the real levers for value creation. It's not just about making money in the next quarter, it's about sustaining that performance. It's about unlocking productivity. And what I did learn through accounting is that at the end of the day, the route for success is through effectiveness. The more we can deploy a better return on our time, a better effectiveness of the activity, that will be mathematically translated into efficiency. So I have never been a CFO seeking ruthless cost cutting. But actually what I have been, and I will continue being, is someone who believes that passengers deserve to have better value at lower cost every single day. And the best way, in my view, is through seamless integration.
Fantastic. Javier, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
There are hundreds of companies represented at Passenger Terminal Expo, and British Aviation Group bring many of them together. I'm joined by Tim Walder, Chair of British Aviation Group. Tim, hello and welcome to Altitude.
Hi Russell, and thank you ever so much for the invitation. It's great to see you here.
You have a big presence here, British Aviation Group. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do as a group?
Yeah, sure, Russell. Well, the British Aviation Group is the trade body for the UK supply chain. So we have about 230 organisations which are part of British Aviation Group, or the shortening bag, as it's termed. And we represent them in terms of where are the opportunities, both in the UK and around the world, that they can get involved in, keeping them up to date with what's happening within the industry and where the opportunities are around the world, and generally trying to make sure that they get the best possible chance to work in the communities and the airports which they want to.
How are you finding the show so far, Tim?
PTE is the flagship conference and expo for aviation, and it is just so brilliant to see people from all over the world here, hundreds of companies, thousands of individuals, all one love, and that is aviation.
I understand that you started the day by chairing a panel. How did that go?
I did, yes. It was quite daunting when you've got a panel which includes Heathrow, Gatwick, London City Airport, Manchester Airport, and the regional city airports, all the CEOs, and they were absolutely brilliant. It was great to have a discussion that really focused on where's the future of British aviation going, particularly focused on sustainability, particularly focused on what are the challenges that we face in expansion and growth, and beginning to think about the new ideas coming in, innovation around the use of technology, etc., and that sense of community as well, and where is the aviation sector going in the UK.
Where currently do most of the really exciting opportunities take place around the world?
Well, at home, obviously, Gatwick, Heathrow, also Manchester Airport, London City Airport, but not to forget the regional airports, which are all got growth on the plans. If you just look, Luton is expanding, Stansted is expanding, Gatwick and Heathrow are going to expand. So there is a growth everywhere in the UK. So the UK is a great market for British companies, obviously, but internationally as well. We work very closely with DBT, the Department for Business and Trade, and there are opportunities worldwide which we source together. The embassies have opportunities which they let us know about. Dubai and the UAE, there are opportunities there, although of course geopolitical risks are prevalent around there. America, DBT have got a very strong presence there, and we work closely there. Europe is a big market as well, and the one that we see growing over the next few years is Africa.
So Tim, in terms of the work that you talk about around the world, what is it that gives British companies the edge?
It's a good question, Russell. Traditionally, it was on the design side. We've got architects and engineers that are renowned worldwide, have done very iconic airports throughout the world, as well as the UK. But that's changing. We're now seeing two particular areas, sustainability and innovation coming in around how airports can be a lot more sustainable in the future, but also AI and digital transformation. particularly around the passenger journey. Passenger experience is becoming paramount in terms of understanding where efficiencies can come into the journey for a passenger. And it's not just from the airport to the plane, it's home to destination. And the IT solutions along with the physical solutions, i.e. getting to the airport, getting through the airport and getting out the other end. British companies are bringing a lot of innovation around that, making it a lot more inclusive journey so that passengers of many demographics can enjoy getting through an airport. That's where British companies are bringing a lot of skill.
And what are some of the most exciting innovations that we see in that particular space? Because I see lots around the show about passenger experience.
Yeah. Well, part of the passenger experience we don't see is the baggage. And actually innovation around how bags get through an airport efficiently and quickly. That's one area which is really, really good. Two is using digital technology when you're in the airport on your smartphone to be able to find your way to your gate, to be able to find your way to be able to buy products, to book food in advance, etc. All sort of digital technology like that.
If we now take a little look ahead to the future and maybe think about 2030, what is it that keeps your members feeling optimistic about infrastructure development around airports?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. Russell, in terms of looking at that future, I'd say that we've got to look back to see, you learn from what's happened in the past to be able to go forward. The industry got a bit of a reputation for being a bit of a dirty industry, pollution, noise, air quality, etc. There's a much bigger focus now on how we can make a difference, how we can change the future to be a much more sustainable, carbon neutral, lower noise emission as well. And those are the areas where I see the future is going to be much brighter.
Tim, thank you very much for joining us on Altitude. It's been a pleasure.
Russell, thank you very much for the invitation. I've really loved it. Thank you.
Steve, hello and welcome to Altitude.
Hi, thanks very much for having me.
We've spoken to Moody and Marco previously on the show, so what's the latest from Searidge?
Well, I guess because of the reason why we're here, Searidge has started to definitely see a market where our products and our services, both in sort of technology and in the data outputs that we can deliver, are becoming extremely valuable for sort of airport customers, beyond the tower, if you like. So although we don't lose our heritage in digital towers, that's definitely still there. We're still having lots of great conversations around the world for those types of services. But definitely airport services now are becoming a really big insight for us.
And you were the pioneers of the digital tower. And we've definitely seen that concept move from the novel through to more normal now. What is it that airports are now asking for?
Well, I guess now when they start to see the idea of having they have this idea of a digital tower, and by default they just think, well, there's all going to be this data that we should now be able to access. So I guess airports are becoming wise to the fact that maybe the new platforms that are driving digital towers will enable that future where they can now start to get access to performance data that perhaps once was maybe the subject of a conversation between the manager ATC and the airport operator, maybe sort of talking over the same Excel spreadsheet that's capturing all this data very manually, whereas now a lot of this stuff can start flowing very easily through a shareable sort of platform.
And are there particular aspects of your customers' operations that they're asking to be digitized?
I would probably say that the aspects that they're particularly sort of focused on right now from our perspective is the sort of the movement, the pure movement of aircraft and how that sort of relates to getting early notice of any particular sort of issues around delays, and then potentially some safety areas as well. So that, we see some of our technology that's trying to address sort of safety risks on the airport surface, between aircraft and other aircraft, but also between vehicles. So a lot of our work and discussions are with airports on sort of vehicle management, I guess.
So I guess a big part of that is the apron management.
Yeah.
I know that you had a huge deployment in Hong Kong.
Indeed, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, it's been around for a while now. So it feels like it's old news, but actually the nice thing about Hong Kong is that it's always new. In fact, with what we deploy there, we're having some great conversations around proof of concepts that will add value to vehicle management, add safety monitoring, but also how they've got ambitions to bring in, for example, electric vehicles, and how will you start to manage a runway crossing or a taxiway crossing with an electric autonomous vehicle. That's something that none of us have really got our heads around from a safety perspective, but one that we're in heavy discussion with Hong Kong about right now. So.
And with an airport like Hong Kong, there's so much data, and I understand that you have a platform that brings that together. I can see the name of it over your shoulder there, Chorus.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about Chorus?
Yeah, so I mean, Chorus, well, we know that airports have evolved over years and are effectively right now just a system of systems. So something that NATS has faced several years ago in trying to sort of streamline its architecture. Well, Chorus really is the replacement architecture for that old system of systems. It's effectively allows the integration of data now, the sharing of data to create a true IT sort of environment. So where you see systems that have had to have individual integrations with each other, point-to-point integrations, this now you integrate with one platform. You've got a single platform that can effectively almost scale infinitely. You're literally only sort of restricted by sort of cloud sort of bandwidth and sort of on-prem infrastructure. But we're excited to really start to see the benefits of Chorus. All of our products that we sell, be that an application or even the digital tower, come based on Chorus. So you get that by default out of the box. And then when we start to talk to customers around what we can bring from their other systems, old legacy systems, and indeed new applications into Chorus. And it also becomes their window on the world of the digital tower, because effectively we flow the data out of the tower, useful data that the airport can use within their sort of ACDM, their collaborative decisions that they make daily, and have all of that tactical data live in real time.
So where customers integrate all of this new technology, just how big is the potential benefit for them?
For me, there's this element where I see, and with the conversations we have with airports, is the silos that system of systems, if you like, has created by default. But now is this opportunity to really break down those silos, to start getting teams really looking for that sort of single source of truth, if you like, and making sure that when they make decisions, they're all agreeing on the same data points to make those decisions. So, again, conversations I have with a tower, sometimes they're looking at one set of data and the airport's looking at maybe a similar set, but not quite the same. And so the decisions they come to and the conclusions they come to can be a little different. So this new Chorus platform and this sort of microservice architecture is now going to enable that, as I say, single source of truth for better collaborative decisions. So.
Steve, thank you so much for that, and thank you for joining us on Altitude. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for visiting the stand today. And
thank you.
Thank you.
We're now joined by Chris Woodroofe, Managing Director at Manchester Airport. Chris, hello and welcome to Altitude.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you finding Passenger Terminal Expo?
It's great. I haven't been here since 2019 when I was the Chief Operating Officer of Gatwick Airport, and to be back, it's enormous. Seeing lots of old friends, making some new ones as well, and then getting an opportunity just to talk a bit about Manchester Airport. So I was on a panel earlier with a number of airport chief execs. I then spoke myself about the airport and delivered a presentation on our great transformation journey, £1.3 billion in the last decade, and then a few of these sort of opportunities to do podcasts and just raise the profile.
So you've had quite a busy morning then already.
Yeah.
You spoke there about transformation, about investment at Manchester. Maybe we could open with that.
We've had an incredible decade, and we are now dotting the I's and crossing the T's on this transformation programme. So we've built a whole new half of Terminal 2, moved everyone out of old Terminal 2 into new Terminal 2, refurbished the old Terminal 2 and created this new terminal that with the existing infrastructure in Terminal 3 will allow us to grow to 50 million passengers in terms of terminal infrastructure.
Airports are indeed often cited as being engines for economic growth. How are airports like Manchester driving trade and tourism?
Today, Manchester Airport generates 19,000 jobs on site. We think as a result of the airport existing, there's almost 100,000 jobs across the north that are there only because of the airport. And if we look forward and we go beyond our 50 million passenger target to 60 million passengers, and I'll talk in a second about how we might do that, well then the economic value goes from 8.4 billion pounds of GVA all the way up to 16 billion, so doubling the economic value the airport generates for the north. So it's an incredibly important asset, and those are big numbers. It's quite difficult to kind of get your head around what's that actually mean in practice. But in practice, what that means is if I go and win a route with, let's say, Indigo Airlines to fly direct from Manchester Airport to Mumbai and Delhi, and you could get there before via the Middle East probably or Turkey, but to fly direct, just by flying direct, we add 30 million pounds worth of exports. We add 10 million pounds worth of GVA. And so you add up all those different routes, and we think there'd be an extra 50 long-haul routes associated with our journey from 30 million passengers to 60 million.
So that's clear then that this is a really competitive market that you're in. How do you position the airport in order to win that competition?
No, we were delighted to win that Indigo route specifically. If you think Indigo were flying to Europe for the first time, they chose Manchester Airport as their first destination in Europe, not just in the UK. So we were ecstatic. If you're going to win an airline like that, you need a combination of factors. So you do have to have spent £1.3 billion transforming the airport and delivering an amazing experience to passengers. Because in the end, passengers want to be able to fly through a really great airport and have a decent experience. You also need a great catchment. So there's 23 million people who live within a 2-hour drive of Manchester Airport. And that catchment in no way overlaps with Heathrow's 2-hour catchment for their long-haul services. So you've got a pure catchment where the airlines know that they can sell in, and you've also got great business connections in Manchester and the broader north, and so there's really good business to be done as well. And that combination of a great growing economy in Manchester, growing at twice the rate of the UK, with 23 million people all need to go away on destinations both for business and pleasure, visiting friends and family, with a great experience and a team, albeit I do say myself, that are welcoming to those new airlines and really help them to be successful.
You spoke there several times about the passenger experience, and it's a real key theme here at the show. What do you think is the key to a great passenger experience?
There are a lot of words that get overused in the aviation industry with respect to passenger experience. And one of them that does get overused is this idea of it being seamless. But honestly, when people are paying me a compliment about Manchester Airport, that is the sense they have. They might not use the word seamless, but they're talking about something that doesn't stop them along the way. They just get out of their car, they walk through, they check their bag, they go through security, they head into the International Departure Lounge, maybe buy something in a shop, sit down in a restaurant, order a meal, it comes, they eat it, they're having a relax, then the flight information says it's time to go to your gates, you go to the gate, get on the plane and off you go. And the whole thing has happened without any drama. What nobody wants to be doing is sort of jogging or running around airports because they've got sent to the wrong gate, and nobody wants to be stood in long queues for anything, whether it be security check-in or restaurants. So you really do, that sense of seamlessness is the thing for me.
I also get a sense that there's an awful lot that needs to go on in the background, and a huge amount of companies that need to come together and work as a team. If there was one thing within your operation that you could digitize with no constraints, what would you choose?
So you're absolutely right. It is very much a team sport. If this was the Olympics, this is not the 100-meter sprint. This is absolutely a team sport where you've got lots and lots of different parties involved, and they all have to come together. And nowhere is that more true than getting the aircraft off the ground and then onto their destination and back again. So probably if I were picking an area where there's been an amount of digitization done in pockets across that whole process, if you could really join it up, then that would make a massive difference. Because you think about the jet fuel being burnt when aircraft are holding or aircraft are taxiing on the ground. You think about the opportunity that you could have been flying that aircraft when it's got loads of ground time that's been necessary because of delays. You just, if you optimize the entire thing, then you can really start to make the very best use of that incredibly expensive infrastructure, whether that be airports or aircraft.
Thank you, Chris. We're obviously here from NATS. How important is air traffic management to airport growth?
It's hugely important. And I think as we look ahead, the north of the UK hopefully will be next up for airspace change. And today I can only fly in one direction off our main runways in the route that we would ordinarily take. We should really be able to fly in two different directions to double the amount of traffic we can get off the runway and reduce the amount of ground holding time. So there are real benefits to working with a partner like NATS to help unlock some of that benefit. There's an enormous amount of stuff to go on at Manchester Airport on the airfield in the next 5 years. We've got to resurface the runways, we've got to replace the ILSs, there's all sorts of new technology coming with integrated controller working positions, replacing AFPSs. So there's such a lot of stuff going on, and we're really excited that in the end, having transformed the terminals, the next place we're going to is the airfield.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us on Altitude. It's been a pleasure.
No, lovely to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Albert, hello and welcome to Altitude.
Yes, hello. Nice to be here.
How are you?
Yes, very good. To be honest, also still a little bit jet lagged, as I just arrived this morning at Heathrow from Vancouver. But as it's getting morning there right now, I'm starting to wake up. So I hope to be fully ready for this interview.
Perfect. It's good timing. Well, thank you for joining us. I understand you've also been on a panel already.
Yes, this morning actually with Copenhagen, with as well Geneva and Berlin Airport, all similar airport sizes as Vancouver. So it was really interesting, and also to see that we all have similar problems and we're also working on similar solutions.
What sort of problems do you face?
Well, I think the main focus for a lot of airports is the ability to grow as well in short term. As we see with the political developments, a lot of new routes, also new developments. So some areas become more attractive. But for that, you need to have the ability to grow fast. And at an airport, if you are investing in physical infrastructure, it's very expensive. It takes a long time. While, as we say at Vancouver, if you go with bytes before bricks, if you find IT solutions and you can increase your capacity by using data and technology solutions, it's way faster and way cheaper.
So tell me a little bit about those bytes then. You are Chief Information Officer. Let's get into that. What does that look like in terms of information solutions?
Yeah, so you must imagine, for example, if you have, this is just an example, but if you now do 5 turns of an aircraft a day for one gate, and you can increase that to 7 or to 8, then suddenly you have kind of 30% more capacity at your airport. And solutions that you can use for that, for example, one that we are using at Vancouver is biometric boarding. Biometric boarding, you don't need to check with people the boarding pass and the passport. So people can just board with a face. They smile, basically identify themselves with a smile. And we together with Air Canada, we found out that boarding goes way faster. And by that, you can get more turnarounds a day and increase your capacity.
Thank you, Albert. Maybe changing tack a little bit, maybe a big picture question for you. So we know that the aviation industry is set to continue to grow, lots of passenger demand. How will you accommodate that from an airport perspective?
Yeah, so maybe it's a little bit, I go back to what I said before as well, but so we are not going to do that by building new infrastructure. We believe that with the current technology solutions that are available, both more data, but as well solutions like biometric boarding, we can basically grow in capacity, and we want to grow, without investing in new infrastructure.
And what about one-off events? I know that Vancouver is one of the host cities for the World Cup this year, and
Yes.
you're forecast to receive something like 90,000 passengers a day. What have you done to prepare for that?
Yeah, so basically this is again a data exercise that you do. And it's not only those people, it's always very interesting. If you work at an airport, you think always about that airport, but passengers always travel from A to B. And then when they arrive at B at your airport, they still go with a train and then they go to the stadium. So basically with all those parties, we are sharing data to make sure that we know exactly which kind of people are coming at what moment, and that we can plan the right amount of resources, both at the airport, but as well at the stadium where they are going to, or the train. So it's really about data sharing. But then again, for example, on our boarding to the US, so if you fly from Canada to the US, which is another hosting country for the football, you can do the boarding biometric. So the football fans that fly from us to the United States, they identify themselves with a smile, and they don't need to show the ticket. And in the future, but now I'm looking more ahead, we believe that you can also use that identity to go to the stadium, so that you don't need to show your ticket at the stadium. But again, you can use your face to board or to book a hotel. And those things are kind of next step, because at the end, for the passenger, it's about the whole journey.
So in terms of the show, when I look around, I see lots of new technology. Lots of it looks really exciting.
Yeah.
Which thing do you think is going to make the biggest difference here?
Well, I think something that is maybe hyped, but still underhyped. I think and at the moment there is no better place to be than in aviation, because the changes that you can make with AI in aviation, when you have the right data foundation below it, are going to be amazing. We will be able to do a lot more efficient planning. We will be able to work a lot more together with other partners in the aviation system. So we're going to see very different airports in the next 5 years. And I know you can say AI is overhyped, but I believe it's underhyped. We're just at the start, and this is really going to change aviation.
Thank you, Albert. You mentioned AI. How do we balance AI and safety in aviation?
Yeah, so we at Vancouver, we choose for an implementation model where the human is always in charge. And so AI is going to help the people. We see them a little bit as Popeye. AI is then the spinach, and the people are getting very strong when they eat it. But at the end, people are always responsible. So I have my own CIO agent. So maybe I decide on Friday to say, okay, I take a day off and my CIO agent takes over. But I remain responsible for what it does. So I can never give that responsibility away to the AI.
That's a great analogy. I like it. Albert, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Altitude. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're joined by Dr. Javier Echave from Dublin City University. Victoria, hello and welcome to Altitude.
Hello, Russell. Nice to meet you.
How are you finding the Passenger Terminal Expo?
This is an excellent event. This is my first time here. And this is an excellent event to learn innovations in aviation industry, to meet people, to network with people. I am representing academia, and it's extremely important to know people from the industry, to connect classroom with the real world.
And I understand that in doing so, you've already given a talk here. You gave a speech earlier this afternoon. How did that go?
Yes, I had a presentation. I was talking about airport cities and assessment of airport city sustainability.
Tell me a little bit more about that assessment methodology then, because I understand you use something called fuzzy logic.
Yes, sustainability, this is a key topic in aviation. And when we want to develop aviation, it should be sustainable. And currently, when we are speaking about sustainability, a lot of people means mainly environmental sustainability, but it's not the case. There is also social sustainability, economic sustainability. And in our research, we propose to develop a sophisticated combined methodology in order to assess the integrated sustainability of airport cities. And it can be done using the fuzzy logic methodology.
And what does that provide as its output that industry can then use?
So first of all, I would like to say what is fuzzy logic, yeah?
Please do tell us. Yeah.
Fuzzy logic, this is mathematical tools which gives possibility to deal with uncertain data. For example, you cannot say that airport is efficient or non-efficient with 100%. because airport can be efficient in its economic performance, but it cannot be efficient in social performance. That's why we are using this fuzzy logic tool in order to provide some intermediate state of sustainability. For example, moderate, high, low, depending on various indexes.
In your work, Victoria, I also understand that you describe airports as centres of urban agglomeration. Can you tell us a little bit more about the wider implications of that thinking?
I would like to start this with the role that airport currently is not just the place where aircraft is taking off. This is the place where economic activity is developing. You can observe now that there are huge business centers around the airport only because of airport gives connectivity. Connectivity gives time. Time gives money. So a lot of businesses wants to be concentrated near the airport. And this leads to the development of the city around the airport. And we are calling in this case about airport city and urban agglomeration connected with airport as aviation center of this urban agglomeration.
Thank you, Victoria. One of the key themes of the show is the passenger experience. How does your work link up with that topic?
It is very connected with this topic. I have almost 20 years of teaching and research experience in aviation management and specifically in airports design, planning and management in order to improve passenger experience.
And so tell us a little bit more about the keys to unlocking that passenger experience and improving it.
So we as the passengers want to have seamless journey from our home to the boarding. And this is the place, Passenger Terminal Expo, where you can learn about this all innovations giving the possibility to improve passenger experience. And we are with our students are learning how to do this. That's why I'm here to learn about the innovations, to network with the industry and bring this to the classroom.
Victoria, thank you very much for that. In terms of all of the work that you've done so far, what do you think is the one big thing that the aviation industry needs to do next?
I think that all participants of aviation industry should work together in order to provide more sustainable and digital air transport system of the future. Because currently in aviation there are two key areas, sustainability and digitalization. And all participants should work together, airline, airports, air navigation service providers. So this is the key of successful development of aviation future, and airports in particular.
Those two themes have definitely been key throughout the interviews that we've had today. Victoria, thank you so much for joining us on Altitude.
Thank you so much, Russell. It was my pleasure.